Now that we have completed our first chapter in chemistry, let's jump to the second chapter, which is acids, bases, and salts. I'm sure you must have tried to chew into a lemon once before. You remember that sour taste? Now that was because of the presence of acid in it. Hence, we have examples such as lemon and vinegar, which are acidic in nature. Now let's understand what a base tastes like. You must have tried green tea or maybe dark chocolate or even coffee without sugar. These things have a really weird bitter taste. Now this bitterness is due to the presence of bases in them. We can also give examples of bitter gourd, which nobody likes, soap, which I'm sure you would not try to taste, and cocoa beans, which we use for coffee. Now we talk about the litmus paper test. So what is a litmus paper? Litmus paper is a tool used to test whether a substance is an acid or a base. So when a substance is dissolved in water, the resulting solution causes the litmus paper to change color. So if your substance is an acid, it will change the color of the litmus paper from blue to red. And then if your substance is a base, it changes color of red litmus paper to blue. So basically, a litmus test provides a quick result, but it will not determine the level of acidity or alkalinity of a solution. And by alkalinity, I mean that it is a stronger base. So generally what we do is we use the blue litmus paper to test any acidic substance, and then we use the red litmus paper to test a basic compound. Now you may ask why. Now that is because you can see a clear change in color when you dip these litmus papers into the respective acidic or basic solution. That is why when a blue litmus paper is dipped into an acidic solution, we get the change in color as red. And when a red litmus paper is tested in a basic solution, the change in the litmus paper is clearly blue. Now, just like the litmus paper test, there are several other tests that we can do to identify the acid or a base. There are also natural indicators available for this. And one such example is turmeric. Now, the litmus paper test that we talked about is one of the ways that we can identify an acid or a base. There are many other methods that you can use to identify them. We also have natural indicators such as turmeric that will help us do so. Another natural indicator that we can talk about is stains. As you're all school-going kids, I'm sure you must have stained your white uniforms n number of times for your moms to wash it on a daily basis. If it was the stain of a curry on your white cloth, then you must have observed that it would become reddish brown when you would add soap to it. And remember, soap is basic in nature. And later when you add plenty of water to wash that area, it turns yellow. Now this change in color from a reddish brown stain to a yellow stain is all because of the basic nature of the soap. Now this is one of the natural indicators that help us identify soap as base. So in this chapter, we will be studying the reactions of acids and bases. Now imagine I gave you 3 test tubes. One of them has distilled water in it, and the other 2 contain an acid solution and a basic solution. Now I'm not telling you which test tube contains what. That is what you have to find out. But I'll help you with one thing. I'll give you a red litmus paper. Now pause the video and think what you can do with a red litmus paper. Think of how you will identify all these solutions. The distilled water, which is nothing but a pure form of water, the acidic solution, and the basic solution. I hope you're done. So now let's see how many of you got the right answer. Now, if you dip a red litmus paper into a solution and observe that there is no change in color, then what do you think is the solution in that test tube? So, if there is no change in color and the red litmus paper remains red, then the solution is nothing but an acidic solution. Remember what I told you during the litmus paper test? Acid changes its color from blue to red. But here I gave you a red litmus paper. That is why red did not change to blue, because that is only going to happen to a base. So here red remains red, which means that the solution is acidic in nature. Now tell me, if I dipped the red litmus paper into one of those solutions and the red litmus paper changed color to blue, then what is the solution present in that test tube? That solution is a basic solution. Why? Because we know that during the litmus paper test, if a red litmus paper turns to blue, then it is basic in nature. Now I'm sure by the elimination method you would have guessed the third test tube has distilled water in it. But just think, water is neither acidic or basic in nature. So what do you think the color of red litmus paper must turn into? Now, because distilled water is neutral, the red litmus paper will turn into purple. And this is how you test if a solution is acidic, basic, or neutral. Just like we use the litmus paper test to identify an acid or a base, we can also use odor to help us find if a substance is an acid or a base. This form of a natural indicator is called as an olfactory indicator. So an olfactory indicator is a substance whose smell varies depending on whether it is mixed with an acid or a basic solution. Olfactory indicators can be used in labs to test whether a solution is an acid or a base. A process called olfactory titration is used to let this happen. Onion, clove, and vanilla extracts are examples for this. So how does this work? An olfactory indicator works on the principle that when an acid or a base is added to it, then different odor can be detected in bases, whereas odor remains same in acids. By odor, I mean smell. Now certain substances changes odor in acidic or basic medium. Now let us understand the reaction of an acid or a base with a metal. Now when an acid combines with a metal, it gives us salt and hydrogen gas. Now for us to understand it better, we perform an experiment where we take the aqueous solution of sodium hydroxide and add zinc to it. Now this zinc combines with the sodium hydroxide to give us a salt named sodium zincate, whose chemical formula will be Na2ZnO2. Now because it is a salt, its state symbol would be solid, and then hydrogen gas is passed through it. So the hydrogen gas moves out into the atmosphere. So what did we observe in this experiment? We observed that NaOH, which is sodium hydroxide, which is a base, reacted with zinc, which is a metal, to give us salt and hydrogen gas. Now, when we initially started this reaction, we talked about acid reacting with a metal to give us salt and hydrogen gas. But in the experiment, we observed that when a base reacts with a metal, we get the same products, a salt and hydrogen gas. Now, if you are confused about why NaOH is a base and not an acid, don't worry. You will understand that when we talk about acids and bases reacting with water. For now, just remember that we performed this experiment with a base, which is sodium hydroxide. Now let us talk about what happens when an acid reacts with a metal carbonate and a metal hydrogen carbonate. So what we do is we take two test tubes, and in one of them we add sodium carbonate and hydrochloric acid. Now the reactants in this first test tube gives us the product of sodium chloride, water and carbon dioxide. So what exactly happened in this test tube is that we took a metal carbonate, which in this case was sodium carbonate, and added an acid to it, which is hydrochloric acid in this case, and they combined to form sodium chloride, water and carbon dioxide. So this was the reaction of an acid with a metal carbonate. Now in the second test tube, we add sodium hydrogen carbonate with hydrochloric acid. Now what is formed is similar to the products of the test tube 1, which is sodium chloride, water and carbon dioxide. So what happened in the second test tube is that we took a metal hydrogen carbonate, which is sodium hydrogen carbonate in this case, and then combined it with an acid, which is the hydrochloric acid in this case again, and that gave us sodium chloride, water and carbon dioxide. So even though we used two different types of reactants, we got the same product. Now this was all related to acids. Let's talk about what happens when we choose a base. So in this case, we take calcium hydroxide, which is a base, and this combines with carbon dioxide to give us calcium carbonate and water. So here what we observe is that we used base as one of our reactants and combined it with carbon dioxide to give us a carbonate. Now we take the product that was formed, calcium carbonate, and this time we use it as a reactant and combine it with water and carbon dioxide. And the product that we get here is calcium bicarbonate, which is a form of hydrogen carbonate. I'm sure you must have observed the difference when we talked about acids and bases in all of these reactions. So what happened is the acids reacted with metal carbonates and metal hydrogen carbonates to give us different compounds. But when it came to bases, they reacted with different compounds to give us a metal carbonate or a metal hydrogen carbonate. So what you observe here in case of an acid reacting with a metal carbonate or a metal hydrogen carbonate is that it gives you salt, the corresponding salt, carbon dioxide and water. Now we talk about how acids and bases react with each other. Here in the equation, we take an example of sodium hydroxide, which is a base, reacting with hydrochloric acid, which is obviously an acid, and these two form to give us NaCl, which is sodium chloride. Now this sodium chloride is the common salt that we use in our daily food, and the other byproduct that is formed is water. So in general, we can state that when a base reacts with an acid, it gives us salt plus water. Now this reaction between an acid and a base to give us salt and water is known as neutralization reaction. Remember this neutralization reaction as this will be used later in the chapter. So here we talk about reaction of metallic oxides with acids. Now when a metal oxide reacts with an acid, it gives us the product of salt and water. Now if you observe, this reaction gives us the products same as the reaction where acids reacted with bases. Now since this reaction where metallic oxide reacts with acids to give us salts and water is similar to the reaction of a base with acid, the metallic oxide is said to be a basic oxide. If you've observed, most of the reactions until now have given us only salts as their products. And that is because we are only dealing with acids and bases either together or with such compounds that produce salt when reacting with this. Now that we have talked about reaction of a metallic oxide with an acid, we now talk about reaction of a non-metallic oxide with a base. When you combine a base with a non-metal oxide, it gives you salt and water as its products. Now this is third time in a row that we have got salt and water as our products. Since the non-metallic oxide reacted with base to give us salt and water, which is again similar to the reaction of a base with an acid, this non-metallic oxide is now similar to acids. Now it's quiz time. So here is your question. Why should curd and sour substances not be kept in brass and copper vessels? Now please pause the video, think about what your answer should be, and only then play the video to match your answers. Alright, now let's get back to the question. Why do you think curd and sour substances should not be kept in brass and copper vessels? So they are talking about brass and copper particularly. So why only these two? You see, copper is a metal and brass is made out of copper and zinc. So indirectly it is made out of a metal component. And what is curd and other sour substances? These are all acidic in nature. So what do you think will happen when an acid reacts with a metal? It produces to give us harmful substances. That is why you should not keep all of these acidic substances into a metal jar or a vessel. If you did not know this, please note it down that copper is a metal and brass is an alloy of copper and zinc. Now what do all acids and bases have in common? Both acids and bases are electrolytes, which means that they are good conductors of electricity. Acids and bases both produce ions in water solution, which we will study about later in detail. But just remember that acid releases hydrogen ions in water and base releases hydroxide ion, which is the OH minus ion. Now when you try and mix an acid or a base in water, remember that this reaction is a highly exothermic reaction, which means you have to be really careful while pouring out an acid into water. Now to understand what is common between these two, we take help of an experiment. Here, two nails are placed on a cork and the cork is placed inside a beaker. Now one of these nails is directly connected to the negative part of the power supply, which is a 6-volt power supply. The other end of this power supply, which will be the positive end, is connected to a bulb, and the bulb in turn is connected to a switch. And the other end of the switch is then connected to the other nail on the cork. Now what we'll do in this experiment is we try to use different solutions to see if they conduct electricity or not. The first solution that we take is alcohol. Now this alcohol solution is poured into the beaker. And now the circuit is closed, which means that the switch is turned on. Now remember, there is no direct connection between the two nails. So only if your solution can conduct electricity, only then the bulb will glow. Else the bulb just does not glow. So is an alcoholic solution helping us conduct electricity? No. The alcohol solution in water does not conduct electricity, because of which the bulb just does not glow. Now let us take a different solution. Let us take glucose. Now this glucose solution is placed inside the beaker, and now the switch is turned on. We will observe that even the glucose solution in water will not conduct electricity, because of which the bulb will not glow. Now we take an acidic solution and place it inside the beaker. Now the switch is turned on so that electricity can pass through it. And as this switch is turned on, we observe that the acidic solution in water will conduct electricity, because of which the bulb is turned on. Now let us use the basic solution. The base is placed inside the beaker, and the switch is turned on for the flow of electricity. Now what we observe that even a basic solution in water conducts electricity, and because of this the bulb glows. Now why is it that only an acidic solution or a basic solution conducts electricity in water? That is because they produce ions. Remember, I told you that acid produces the hydrogen ion when in water, and the base produces the OH minus ion when in water. Now with the help of these charged ions, electricity passes through them, and hence these two solutions in water conduct electricity.